This video shows you how to use focus stacking in Affinity Photo 2. It might sound technical, but focus stacking, or focus merge as it's called in Affinity Photo, is surprisingly easy. Focus stacking is a technique used widely by close-up and macro photographers because it overcomes one of the key difficulties of close-up and macro photography: depth of field. The closer you get to your subject, the shallower the depth of field, to the point where you can't get the full depth of your subject sharp even using the lens's minimum aperture. This picture, for example, was taken at f11, and you can see there's hardly any depth of field. I could stop right down to f22, but such a small aperture would mean the lens was no longer performing at its best, and even then, there wouldn't be enough depth of field to get our subject sharp from front to back. The solution is to take a whole series of shots at slightly different focus points and then merge them in software to combine the sharpest regions of each one. The result, if you get it right, is an image with complete front to back sharpness, like this one here. It's the same subject shot with the same camera, but this time the picture is made up of a whole series of frames merged together, each one focused slightly further away than the last. Ideally, it's best to use a tripod, so that there's no variation in framing for your focus stack images, though Affinity Photo can align images automatically too. It's also best to use a camera with focus stacking built in, as this can save a lot of time. The camera will automatically refocus and shoot in small increments instead of you having to do it manually. For this example, we used a Canon EOS RP. There is a difference though between focus stacking and focus bracketing. With focus stacking, the camera will combine your frames itself to produce a finished image, but one with no editing control. You have to take it or leave it. We're using focus bracketing, where the camera just takes the pictures and we merge them ourselves in Affinity Photo. Now, even with focus stacking, it's a good idea to use a small lens aperture. We're using f11 here. That's because you will still need enough depth of field to cover the gaps between the different focus points. You can create focus stacks manually if your camera doesn't have this feature. You will need to use manual exposure so that there's no variation between frames, and manual focus to change the focus point slightly for each successive shot. The number of frames you need for focus stacking will depend on how close you are to the subject and how shallow the depth of field will be with your chosen lens and aperture. For tabletop setups, you might be able to get away with a focus stack of around a dozen images, but close-up experts and macro photographers will often shoot 50 or more. With that number of images and that level of precision, you can see how handy it is to have a camera that can do it for you, and a program like Affinity Photo that can make the merge process easy. To create a focus merge, you don't start by opening all those images in Affinity Photo. Instead, use the File New Focus Merge command. This displays a small focus merge window where you click the Add button and then navigate on your computer to the images you want to add. When you've done that, you'll see the list of images in a focus merge window. Helpfully, these all have thumbnail icons so that you can do a quick visual check to make sure they're all part of the same series. You'll see that there are buttons to add or remove images if you add the wrong ones or don't select enough. All that's left to do then is hit the OK button and leave Affinity Photo to do its stuff. The first thing Affinity Photo will do is align the source images. We shot these images on a tripod, so there should not be any need for alignment, but it's good to know that Affinity Photo can align images automatically in handheld focus bracket sequences, though the more you can keep the camera steady, the better the outcome. Next, Affinity Photo carries out the focus merge. This is all part of the same automatic merging process. The image will change appearance several times, but don't worry about that. At the end of the process, you will see your merged image as a single layer in a main photo persona, ready for any further editing work you need to do. You will also see a new sources panel showing all the images used to make the focus merge. We'll come to that in a minute. If you select the merged photo in the layers panel, you'll find you can edit this just like any other photo. For example, our image looks a little light, so we can add a curve adjustment to bring down the brightness and add contrast and color saturation. But then if we look a little closer at our merged image, we can see there's a bit of a problem around the tip of the sundial near the top of the picture. This can sometimes happen with focus stacking, with specular highlights or blur spreading out from defocused objects, which is what's happening here. This just requires a little manual intervention where we choose one of the stacked images as a clone source to make a repair. This is a common fix in focus stacking, and it's easy to do in Affinity Photo thanks to the Sources panel. This should be displayed automatically when you create a focus merge. If not, use the Window Sources menu option. At the top of the Sources panel is your merged focus stack. Further down are all the source images used to create it, and they're all still available. What you need to do is click the eye icon at the bottom left of the Sources panel and go through your source images to find one where the detail in that area looks right. Incidentally, because I've added a curves adjustment in the layers panel, I need to make sure that I've got the actual stacked image layer selected, not the adjustment. What you need to do is click the eye icon at the bottom left of the Sources panel and then go through your source images to find one where the detail looks right. Now unclick the eye icon to see the merged image again. The clone brush tool should be selected by default, and the source image you used will now be selected as the clone source. You just paint over the problem area with the clone tool to clone in the area from the source image. A hard brush setting works best. This can fix most problems, but not all. In this case, we've still got an area of the blue background that doesn't look quite right, and there doesn't seem to be a source image we can use to fix it. But that's not a problem. We can just select the merged layer in the Layers panel and use Affinity Photo's regular retouching tools to clean up any remaining issues. Here we've used the clone tool to restore the texture of the background around the tip of the sundial marker, using an area of the background just to the left. Shooting a focus stack doesn't need a whole lot more work than shooting a regular close-up or macro image, especially if you're using a tripod already. And the merge process in Affinity Photo is largely automatic. And it's well worth the effort, because the depth of field and clarity you can achieve with close-ups is far greater than you could ever achieve with a single exposure. For more on Affinity Photo, visit affinity.serif.com. Thanks for watching.